Hey y'all, I'm Ada K. And I must confess, I'm a trial junkie. I enjoy viewing trials as if I was the seated juror. So grab a cup of java, get comfy, and join me as we hop into court. And don't forget to comment, like, and most importantly, subscribe. And if you're really enjoying the channel, please join our membership. Good morning. I made it. And my thing is crooked. Oh, I'm going to have to redo my hair. Oh, it's that kind of morning. Are you awake? Are we up? Are we ready for court? No, not really. Good morning. How are you? Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Well, I'm still trying to get my mind off of Boone. And guess what? There's Boone news. Good morning, Melissa. Good morning, Emily. Welcome, everybody. Well, today, back into the Farris trial. If you haven't joined us before and you're new, welcome. We appreciate having you. We hope you enjoy your time with us. Today, we'll be watching the Melody Farris trial. And you know what? This is a real whodunit. And I'm anxious to find out who did it. We all have our suspicions, of course. But it's gotten interesting. So let me get that up on the screen. Oh, I got a cat here. I'm going to have to redo my hair. I can't live with that. But we'll live with it later. And there we go. We are up. We're ready. How are y'all doing? Did y'all have a good night's sleep? I got a little too ambitious last night. And I did more cleaning than I'm used to. And I have bad arthritis in my back. And let's just say when I laid down, my back was screaming. Coffee. We have a fabulous sponsor. If you love coffee, you're going to absolutely adore this because it is amazing. Why is it different and amazing? Because it's fresh roasted. Fresh roasted, yes, fresh ground. No harsh preservatives. It's pure flavor. No chemical on the back taste. It's fabulous. And they're our sponsor. Hey, y'all, please help me welcome the Hitchman Homestead Coffee. They are fabulous. They have many different blends of freshly roasted, freshly ground coffee. They have a monthly club where you get 4 bags for $40 or a Keurig option. Also, they just came out with a half and half. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love it. So do me a favor. Go down to the link below at hitchmanhomestead.com. Order you some coffee and show them some love. Yes, y'all. Show them some love. Oh. Good morning. Hi, Zach. Hey, am I rocking it? I feel like I have ropes hanging. But I'm proud of them. Good morning. Are you busy today? The coffee tastes especially good today. I don't know why. Yeah, I'll redo this in a break because that's going to drive me nuts. Okay. And I left my glasses in the other room. Gee, gets. I'll go get him in a little bit. Oh, it was so hard to get out of bed this morning. As you can tell, I was a minute late. I didn't actually come into the shop until 7:50. So I think getting hair and makeup done and being live in 11 minutes is pretty dang good. We um in the central Texas, we're having a wind advisory today, and it's finally feeling like fall. Finally, finally feeling like fall. And the leaves, what little color they turn, are turning. And yeah, we got the potential of some rain and some storms coming up this week. So, yep, definitely fall in this neck of the woods. Okay, for those of you who don't know who Melody Farris is, she is a woman accused of unaliving her husband via lead shooter and then leaving him or putting him into a burn pile and then cremating him. Yep. And then gotta work. I'll be lurking. Oh, no problem. Thank you for lurking. I appreciate it. Um, there is a bunch of family drama. Her daughter testified yesterday, the last of the 4 children, 2 males, 2 females, but this daughter is the only one of the children that's on her side. Only one of the children that is supporting her mother. And I have to say that must be in a really bad place. Unfortunately, in supporting her mother, they're throwing her brother under the bus. Um, oh, thank you. That felt great. So it is a real family drama. It's been amazing. Good morning. Oh, I see how it goes. Yeah, Ronnie hops on and says, "Good morning, Zach." Hmm. Just kidding, Ronnie. Good morning to Zach. It's that you got it right, and good morning to you, love. I hope you're having a good morning. We are just waiting for trial to start. It seems like they're a little late. They may actually rest today. And then tomorrow we have off. Whoop, whoop. I get to go see my daughter tomorrow. Mm, I'm going to take the day off and I'm going to drive 2.5 hours to her college. I'm not going to say where. And we're going to uh, help her get ready for Halloween. This is the first year she's participating in a Halloween activity at college, although she's been there a couple of years. And we're going to go do some shopping. We're just going to do a mother and daughter's day. So I look forward to that. Good morning. Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, I am Pocahontas today, which I probably shouldn't say that because I'm native. I'm nativing today. Um, I got to fix it though. That is sacrilege right there. So once trial starts, I'll camera off and go get my glasses and fix my hair. How are you doing this morning, Ronnie? Oh, I didn't even check my Discord. Ooh, I did on the phone, but morning, jailbirds. I love how you say that. Are we the jailbirds now? Oh my gosh. Oh. Okay, so we have the Baldwin docs. Okay, we've already talked about that a little bit. I'm just going to see if I've had any um fabulous document fairies drop me some information. I have some of the best document fairies in the world. Absolutely love and adore you. I guess I can close this out. I had my we'll save it so we know who did what when. I still had in the background my Excel sheet of the witnesses from the Boone trial. Yes, I know. I did it. Uh uh-oh, camera wiggling. We got something flowing. We got something going. I love it when I see that. Oh. Let's see. We're gonna have a weird winter, y'all, here. I've got to get some college work done today. Good morning, Adair. Oh, good morning. Bless you for joining. It's fall. It's cool. The wind is blowing. I can't hear it, but I feel it. And this cup of coffee, it's the Hill Country Ethiopian dark roast is what I'm drinking this morning. It is warm in flavor as well as in temperature. It's got a hint of a nut, I think, to me anyway. It is fabulous. I just want to just curl up with a blanket. It was hard getting out of bed this morning. I ain't gonna lie. I had the little heated mattress pad on my bed, and I had that on the lowest setting. And I woke up with that perfectly warm, cozy feeling. And I was like, no, don't want to get up. But I'm here for it. I'm up, I'm awake, and I'm here for it. She gave a little smile. Yesterday was excruciating for her because her daughter, unfortunately, was testifying.
All right. You all got any plans for rebuttal at the moment? Okay. All right. So we're on track. We'll probably be done in an hour or so. All right. Go and bring your witness in. Bring the jurors up.
Did he say it?
The witness up and bring the jurors in.
They bring the jury.
Love that sound bite. Thank you so much, Dawn. For those of you who don't know, Dawn gave me 3 fabulous sound bites from the last jury.
We had a good day. It was a good day.
Mr. Ray, did I cover everything yesterday? Do y'all need
Bring
to
the jury.
the record with your client?
I don't think so. You just did it again when I said
Right.
And the third one?
the jury is present.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you so much, Dawn, for that. Well, you're welcome. I try to make it fun, although this morning my mind is trying to engage and I've got to redo braids. This is really driving me nuts. Oh. Y'all, we need to decide on the next trial. I do know there's another trial that's been going on, but we're day 3 into it. It's the Chandler Halderson trial, and I'm not too sure I want to go into that one. There's so many things coming up, so we need to decide on what's next. If you, as my viewers, have any opinions or wishes or likes, please leave them in the comments below, because my goal is to show what you want to see, not necessarily what I want to see. Sorry, I'm looking at weather. I'm a storm chaser, so I'm always interested in the weather. I'm looking at courts, so we need to find a new case. Yeah, we need to find a new case. Definitely need to find a new case. We got to find something good. Look at my calendar, see if we got anything hopping up.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Ray.
Testimony you'll give before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Have a seat. Thanks. When you get seated, go ahead and state your name for the record.
I'm Dr. Jonathan Arden. It's A-R-D-E-N.
And Dr. Arden, what do you do for employment?
I am a forensic pathologist. My primary employment is as a consultant in forensic pathology and medicine, and I also hold a part-time position as a forensic pathologist with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner for the state of West Virginia.
And so I'm assuming, being a forensic pathologist, you went to medical school?
Yes, sir.
Where did you go to undergrad?
2 years at Johns Hopkins University and then 2 years at the University of Michigan.
How about medical school?
University of Michigan,
And when did you graduate from University of Michigan Medical School?
1980.
That's the year I was born. Do
Go ahead, make me feel old.
where did you do your residency at?
What year did
I did a 3-year residency in anatomic pathology at the New York University Medical
I have to hear that again.
School. 1980.
Oh,
That's the year I was born.
shut up.
Go ahead, make me feel old.
Yeah, I know, right?
Where did you do your residency
Feel
at?
old.
I did a 3-year residency in anatomic pathology at the New York University Medical School in New York City. And then I did a 1-year residency in forensic pathology at the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner for the state of Maryland.
All right. What's the difference? I'll just go ahead and hop in here. What's the difference between anatomical pathology and forensic pathology?
Well, to begin with, let's start with the more general definition of pathology. That is the medical specialty that studies the changes in the form or the function of the human body or its components. And when I talk about changes, we're talking about the effects of diseases or injuries. In the broad field of pathology, it's divided into 2 major pieces, one of which is anatomic pathology, and that is the pathology of the anatomy, the structures of the body. So you learn to interpret and diagnose the changes of the structures of the body, some of which you can see with the naked eye, hold in your hand, some of which require a microscope to examine, and you diagnose diseases and injuries. Then within anatomic pathology, if you take the broad general background of general medicine, anatomic pathology, and then you apply it primarily to the process of investigating and certifying certain types of deaths, and those deaths being, number one, deaths that occur by violence, which simply means any death that occurs by any kind of injury under any circumstances,
Morning.
excuse me, as well as any deaths that occur suddenly, unexpectedly, so people who die in public, for instance. That's the field of forensic pathology.
Okay. And if you need any water, there is some right there behind you.
He's going for it.
You're fine.
He's like, I am so going for it.
Thank you.
Now, after you finished your residency, what'd you do after that?
After I completed the training that I just described to you, I then spent 20 years as a full-time government medical examiner. I worked in 4 different offices, including 9 years with the city of New York, where I rose through a number of titles and finished as the first deputy chief medical examiner. That's the second in command to that system. I then spent about 5.5 years as the chief medical examiner of Washington, D.C. Once I finished my 20 years of full-time government service, I then entered into the consulting work, that type of work that brings me here today. And overlapping with that, I spent about 1.5 years with a part-time position in Northern Virginia, where I was living at the time, as a community-based medical examiner. And then, more importantly, since 2008, so for about 16 years now, I've held a part-time position with the medical examiner system in West Virginia, in which I perform the functions of their medical examiners. In that job, I actually do autopsies, write reports, go to court, things like that. But so then, first 20 years of my career was full-time government work, and the second 20 years has been mostly consulting work.
Okay. I'm assuming you're currently licensed to practice medicine.
I'm currently licensed in 5 states,
And
being
what states are those?
Florida, West Virginia, Maryland, Virginia, and I hold a license in an inactive status in New York.
Are you a member of any of the relevant organizations regarding forensic pathology?
Currently a member of the Florida Medical Association. I have been actually for about 35 years. I was a member of the National Association of Medical Examiners.
Okay. Have you done any teaching?
Excuse me?
Teaching?
During the course of my career, I have done teaching, particularly when I worked in New York City and Washington, D.C. I held academic appointments, and I did more teaching in those years. That's about 14, 15 years out of my 20 years of my career.
And what universities did you teach at?
In New York City, I had appointments in both the New York State University Medical School in Brooklyn, as well as the New York University Medical School in Manhattan. And in Washington, D.C., I was appointed in the George Washington University Medical School in the pathology department.
And how many lectures or presentations? Do you do any of that?
I have over the years given a fair number of them, especially again, my busiest time of teaching and lecturing was in New York and Washington, but I've provided various kinds of lectures to medical offices, medical audiences, law enforcement,
You're right
lawyers.
there. They really don't, but
So
this has to be done.
I've done a fair amount of that over the years.
qualify him.
I've given presentations at national meetings a number of times as well.
And over the course of your now 44-year career or so, how many autopsies have you done?
I've personally done something over 3,000 forensic autopsies, plus whatever autopsies I did in training prior to that. And I haven't kept track, but I've probably had at least 500 other examinations of bodies without a full autopsy where I've issued death certificates.
Okay. And how many cases do you think that you have consulted on?
Oh, I haven't added that up. For the number of years in my consulting practice, I was taking about 125 to 150 new cases a year, trying to get myself towards something that sounds like retirement. We're probably taking around 65 new cases a
Is
year
this
now.
talk to you guys? Because my ears are very well
How
amplified.
many times over the
Are y'all
course of your career
struggling
do you
to hear
think you
him?
testified in court?
Oh, probably around
I know
5
you're
years
so
ago
good.
or so, I was still saying over 900 times testifying in court, hearings, grand juries, depositions all together. That's been years, so it's well over that now.
Okay. And how many different states in the U.S. have you testified in? And we'll just make it easy. How many times have you testified actually in court in front of a jury in the U.S.?
I don't actually have that number. I mean, it's a number of hundreds. It's probably more than 500 in front of a jury.
Okay.
In terms of states, I haven't counted that up lately either, but it's probably somewhere in the 25 to 30 state range, plus federal courts, plus military courts martial.
Okay. And what about, have you done any consulting work or testified in any foreign countries?
Yes, I actually testified by video in Montenegro a number of years ago, testified once or twice in Canada. I've consulted on cases that have not, or at least have not yet ended in testimony in England and Israel as well.
Have you been qualified as an expert witness before?
Yes, hundreds of times.
Hundreds of times? You know, at this point, we would move Dr. Arden in as an expert in the field of forensic pathology.
All right, any objections? No. All right, he's tendered as an expert and is thus can testify to his opinion based upon things in his range of experience. All right, go ahead.
Dr. Arden, for the jury, explain what a medical examiner is.
Well, in this country, every jurisdiction has some form of a medical legal death investigation agency, and roughly half of the country is covered by agencies called medical examiners, and about half are covered by coroners. Those are somewhat different systems. We don't really need to belabor the politics of it or the constitutional end of it, but so a medical examiner's office is the office that is charged under the law with the kind of work that I told you is what forensic pathology does. The medical examiner's office is the one that investigates the deaths that come under its jurisdiction, either deaths due to injury, deaths that are sudden, unexpected, and unexplained, some other special categories, deaths in custody in some places, deaths due to public health hazards. So that's what the medical examiner office does. And the process that I outlined or I defined for you is investigate and certify. So it starts with an investigation. You have to figure out what are the circumstances? Where did the dead person come from? How did this happen? Because it gives you your context. Just like you go to see your doctor, you don't hide behind a curtain and say, figure me out. You come in and say, I have a cough, I have a fever,
There.
whatever, and your physician knows that it makes a
Be
difference
nice.
if you're a 4-year-old girl or a 90-year-old man as far as what the doctor's looking for. So the investigation is like the history. And then the examination is usually the autopsy of the dead body. And sometimes it also includes toxicology or other examinations, x-rays, things like that. So that's how the medical examiner office works. And if you're asking what is a medical examiner in terms of the professional, the medical examiner is a forensic pathology who performs all of those functions.
Okay. You were hired by myself and John Luke Weaver as a consultant on this case, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How much to date are you aware of? Like, how much have we paid you?
I believe I've been paid in fees up to now just about $6,600. I mean, I've been working on this case since January of 2021 with your office. And so I think at this point, it's been just about $6,600 total. There are some other hours in there that haven't yet been paid, and plus the appearance today.
Okay. Does the fact that you are compensated by my office, does that change your opinion of what you're going to testify to today?
No, I offer my opinions based on the facts and accepted medical practice and my 40 years of experience, and you get the same opinion whether you're paying me or not, or whether it helps you or not. It's all based on the facts.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the facts. Tell the jury what all in this case have you reviewed?
First of all, I reviewed investigative reports from law enforcement, mostly from the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office. I believe there was one report from the marshal. And there were also various reports from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the GBI. That includes from their medical examiner's office, the autopsy report and the anthropology report initially done by Dr. Gooding. That includes photographs that were taken, I'm kind of lumping together between law enforcement and the GBI, but photographs of the death scene or the recovery scene, photographs of the examination of the remains by the anthropologist and by the pathologist, x-rays, or actually I got photos of the x-rays taken of the remains. I think I also saw some photos that were from the house at the site where the burn pit was. From the GBI, I also reviewed some other laboratory reports. There was a laboratory report about looking for accelerants, in other words, chemicals that might have been used to fuel that fire. Unless I'm missing something, I think those were all the documents that I examined.
And you're not going to approach.
I'm going to show you what has been pre-marked as pardon 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Can you identify 1 through 3?
Well, you just handed me our marked pardon 1 through 3 inclusive are 3 photographs taken of portions of the remains of Mr. Farris. These are photographs that I recognize that were taken during the time in June of 2022 when I personally examined the remains at the coroner's office here.
Okay. And that was my next question. So you actually went and reviewed the remains of Mr. Farris personally?
I did.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what is 4 and 5. You don't need to read them, just identify what they are and if they're true or correct.
What you've handed me is Arden 4 is a copy of my curriculum vitae or CV. That's my professional resume, total of 6 pages. That is complete. And Arden 5 is a copy of the consultation report. Actually, it looks like it's 2 copies. Yes, this is actually 2 copies of my consultation report that I wrote in December of 2023 for this matter.
Okay. And I will, apparently my stapler got the best of me this morning. 1 copy. At this time, we go to moving to evidence Arden 1 through 5, the photographs, CV, as well as his report.
All right, admitted. You get the screens.
Please. Dr. Arden, I'm showing, can you, well, we're waiting on the screens to come on. While that is coming up, when you were reviewing the remains, did you notice any damage to the bones of Mr. Farris other than thermal damage?
Right. Other than thermal damage, no. I did not find any kind of damage or injury to the bones that would suggest any other form of. Yes, this is a photograph of several of the fragments of bone and tissue. You can see there is a tag that was with these fragments that's identifying them as tissue fragments that had a bullet in them. And I can tell you that you can see on our left there below the tag is a portion of a rib. The roughly triangular darkened fragment on our right is some burned soft tissue with another portion of rib. That's where that bullet had been recovered.
And just so we're clear, is the triangular portion on the left side of Arden 1, is that soft tissue with a rib still attached or inside of it?
Yes, I think you said left side. That's our right side.
Yeah, that's the right side, sorry.
But yes, the one that you're circling with the cursor, that's exactly what that is.
Soft tissue with a rib,
Yes,
okay?
portion of a rib.
Portion of a rib. And
I have no problem showing this, but I will not show the
what is
skull.
that?
It is not appropriate. Just giving you.
Can you identify?
Oh, yes, that is a,
That's Arden.
People upset at me about
okay,
it.
what you're showing me,
That's
Arden 2 is a slightly closer up view of the same set of fragments. Now you can see the rib fragment
Good
that
morning,
was
Dr.
toward the left,
Is
and
your
another fragment
statement?
of tissue that was the one
You
on
have
the
a great-
bottom one in the first in Arden 1, and you can just barely see to our right the edge of that bigger triangular fragment.
And last one. And for the jury, can you tell them about how you went about examining the remains at the coroner's office?
Well, the remains had been stored in various bags and organized in terms of which segment of the burn pit they had been removed from. Dr. Gooding had, in her exam and her report, basically divided up the area into 4 quadrants, A, B, C, and D, and the human remains and the fragments that were removed from each of them were labeled as to where they came from and bagged and tagged as to where they came from. So I essentially was provided access to all of those bags as organized and labeled, and then went through each and every one of them, opened them up. Some we opened and some I believe we just examined through the bag. The areas that were more important, such as what you were seeing in Arden 1, 2, and 3, we took out of the bag, laid out, took the photos. I got to handle them and look at them in different directions, things like that.
And kind of jumping around, because that's how I do it. Through your review of this, did you notice or were able to determine whether any flammable or ignitable liquids had been used in this fire?
Based on the laboratory report from the GBI, which was testing to determine if there were any flammable liquids, what we call generically accelerants, the laboratory report did not identify any accelerants related to this fire or these remains.
I'm going to show you what has been previously admitted as, we'll go with Gooding 10. Did you review this photograph to the best of your knowledge?
If it's part of the photos from the Gooding material, yes, I did. Actually, now that I look at this carefully, I did review this. I have seen this photograph, yes.
Okay. Can you explain to the jury what this is?
Yes, what you're looking at here, just slightly right of center, you see the vertical whiter band. That's a portion of a rib. You can see to our left, there's a hand in a black glove holding the fragment, and the more orange kind of cylindrical item that's almost dead center in the photograph is in fact that bullet that was recovered from the soft tissue associated with that rib.
Now, with the portion
There,
of the
you have a
rib,
lady friend, and you're.
that you were able to examine, did you notice
Yeah.
any damage to the rib from that bullet?
No, there was no damage to the rib or any of the bones in this area. The bullet was simply in the associated soft tissue.
And I'm going to show you next. This is Gooding 11. This was attached to her report. Have you seen this photograph?
Yes, I've seen this diagram.
All right. You weren't here and you didn't hear it, but I'd asked Dr. Gooding where the bullet was found. And the best that she could tell me, essentially it's on the left side of the body. Is that what this photograph is showing for you and your medical opinion?
Yes, I think she's indicating here with the brackets that the rib fragments with the small area of soft tissue where the bullet was were from left ribs. If I recall correctly, she said in her report, sternal ends of left ribs. So the sternum is the breastbone, and the ribs each rib starts attached on each side of your backbone, your vertebral column, and goes around and slightly downward from your side to your front, and then the ribs attach through cartilage, soft tissue, with the breastbone, sternum. So she was referring to these being the rib ends that are closer to the front, but it was left-sided ribs.
Okay. Now, would you say that the bullet, as you previously testified, the bullet is in the soft tissue? Can you explain, give us any indicator of where that bullet may be according to Gooding 11?
It was in the soft tissue between two of the ribs, close to the front, close to the breastbone. So you have, if you think about the anatomy, you have the skin on the outside, you have a layer of fat underneath the skin, which is normal. Everyone has a layer of what we call subcutaneous fat. And then in this area of the body we're talking about, you have the chest wall, which has the ribs, and there are muscles, some muscles on the front of those ribs, and there's a band of muscles that goes in between each of the ribs. And they're called intercostal muscles, which is a fancy medical term that means in between ribs.
Yeah.
So you have this chest wall of the skin, the underlying fat, the ribs with all of their muscles that makes a structure there. It's the outside, the boundary of your chest. And that's all, if you're going from the outside in, that's all before you get into the body cavity. We haven't reached the next layer deeper would be in the body cavity where, for instance, your heart and your lungs are.
And so the body cavity is where all the vital organs are contained.
Yes, we have, technically speaking, we have two separate chest cavities where each lung sits. You have a compartment in the middle in the chest, which is anatomically separate. That's called the mediastinum, which is where the heart and major blood vessels are and some other structures. You have another separate cavity in the abdomen down below, which isn't related to this, so I won't belabor that. But yes, inside the cavities is where you have all the vital organs, the major blood vessels. But we're talking about here are tissues on the chest wall. They're not inside the body cavities.
Did you also review the autopsy in this case?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did you notice anything odd about the autopsy, the actual report?
Well, the thing that I noted in my report about the autopsy report is that the autopsy report is essentially administrative details, who did what when, and the vast majority of the autopsy report actually is cut and paste from Dr. Gooding's anthropology report. The only part of the autopsy report that has its own independent examination reported is there's a paragraph of the the examination of the x-rays taken by the medical examiner.
Okay. Now, from your review of everything that you looked at in this case, can you tell the jury to a medical certainty where the entry wound is?
I cannot.
I'm seeing if
Yeah.
do we still have the projectile in there? It's up here.
Adair,
You had
you need to
actually
keep it
seen
clean.
the projectile, maybe it's up here. We got to go through all this again. But you recall the petals on the projectile, right?
Yes, it was what we call a jacketed bullet. It has a lead core with an outer copper-colored coating. Many of those jackets have petals, they call them, on the nose end of the bullet, such that when the bullet enters a tissue, those petals can peel back, which is what happened in this case.
And can you determine anything about the path of a bullet potentially regarding whether or not those petals are pulled back on the jacket of a projectile?
Please.
You really can't. You know, assuming the bullet enters nose first, which is typically what happens, as it encounters the tissue, the
sorry,
resistance
sometimes
of the
I get
tissue
really
can
frustrated
peel back
with
those
obvious
petals
data.
off of the nose of the bullet. And this is commonly how a bullet like this is designed, that as it expands, the nose of the bullet expands, the petals peel back, it causes greater resistance. So this bullet is now transferring more of its energy to the tissue that it's going into and through. So it creates greater damage. Now, if you find a bullet in the tissues, and if you can determine or maybe assume that the bullet simply went in a straight line and ended pointing in the same direction it was going, well, then the petals of the jacket will be peeled back, showing you that that's the nature of the peel back in the opposite direction of what the travel
I
of
like
the
right
bullet.
here.
Now, on the other hand,
Not gray enough.
that bullet goes into the
Hey,
tissue,
Ronnie, can
and
you
while it is
question for you?
deforming
Can you go there?
and the petals are peeling back, that bullet tumbles, turns, in any way isn't facing straight ahead anymore. Well, then when you find it in the tissue, the direction of the petals going backwards doesn't reflect the direction of travel of the bullet anymore. So you could have it either way. It may be something that tells you the direction. It may not.
So from looking at the rib and the soft tissue that you examined and the bullet, can you give any type of opinion about the trajectory of the projectile?
No. And in fact, that's consistent with what's in the autopsy report. Given the nature of these remains, which were very severely burned, and we don't have an intact body, we don't have an intact surface, and it was stated clearly in the autopsy report, and I agree with this. We don't know where the bullet entered. We don't know which direction it was going, and we don't have any evidence of distance, what we call range of fire. So no, we can certainly say where that bullet ended up, and I can then provide you opinions based on, depending upon where we believe that bullet came from, what it did or did not do. But no, I can't tell you where that bullet entered.
Okay. And you reviewed Dr. Gooding's report, right?
I did.
Right. And you were aware that in her report, she said that based on the peeling back of the bullet, that it was a front to back or posterior to anterior. Is that right?
Well, front to back, yes, that would be anterior to posterior.
Okay, there we go.
Let's just go with front to back. That's easier.
All right, thank you. So front to back. Now, since you can't determine if there's an entry wound, can you determine any type of wound path based on what you've reviewed so far?
No, sir.
But I'm going to stop you there, sir. You got your ribs, right? Here's your ribs. And if the curvature of the rib is like that, which it was in the picture, and the butt end of that flat end was sticking up here. I'm going to zoom back to that. I want to show y'all something. I really want to look at that. Come on. Show me what I need. Actually, I forgot I can do this.
Determine anything visually regarding whether or not those petals are pulled back on the jacket of a projectile?
Well, I don't know why it's not doing it.
Odd about the autopsy, the actual report.
That
It's not doing what I
muscles-
want it to do. Okay. Let's get back to that.
orange kind of
Okay, let's look at this realistically. I think that the state is wrong. See, the rib has a little bit of a curvature right here, and this is the back of the bullet. It appears that the bullet is coming from the outside or the back side of the rib, like this. Oh, sorry. It looks like it's going like this because the flat side of the bullet is facing the curve. So it went this way. It didn't come in this way and impact, because if it came in this way, this would be the tip of the bullet. It's going this way. The back side of the bullet is parallel. So this was actually, yep. I don't think it went through the body. That's what I'm getting at. Are
And
y'all
what
seeing what
would,
I'm seeing?
uh,
Good morning, Miss
a-
Morales. Hello, Brit.
So,
Coffee.
I had asked,
We got.
during her cross-examination, Dr. Gooding,
Honey,
where
I
that
need to
bullet
go
was,
to
and she
Discord,
was very
please.
adamant that it was on the
Hi,
inside of the
Zach.
rib.
How are you?
Now, based on your photographs and your review of all of these reports, can you tell this jury whether it's on the inside of a rib or the outside of a rib?
it looks to me like it is somewhere between the ribs and maybe just a little bit inside. It's not very deep to that rib at all, though. So it's really it's still in that chest wall kind of anatomy that I described. It's not inside the body. It's not in the body cavity.
As a forensic pathologist, if something was just barely on the inside of a rib, would you still say that that is inside or outside the body cavity?
My best assessment of this bullet, as it's shown here, it is not inside the body cavity. It's inside the body. It's outside the body cavity.
Now, from your review, have you been able to form an opinion about how the bullet may have wound up in that location and not damaged any vital organs?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is that?
This bullet, as I said, is not inside the body cavity as it's recovered. It could have gotten to that location following many different kinds of wound pathways. It is certainly among the many different possibilities that you can have a bullet wound that travels very tangentially. It's shallow in the body wall that enters, stays in the soft tissue outside the body cavity, and ends up in that location. So it could come from many different directions if it's not a straight in shot that goes straight from the front directly in, but it comes more from the side, for instance. It could easily, I've seen bullets do this before, it could easily enter, I'm motioning on my own left side of my chest, strike the body at a shallow angle, enter under the skin, stay in the chest wall, travel toward the middle here, end up in precisely that kind of location, and never once enter the body cavity or injure any organs.
Now, did you also examine the skull remains?
Yes, sir.
What did you find from that?
The skull bones had been pretty severely fragmented from the burning process. Dr. Gooding actually did a major job trying to reconstruct as many of the skull bones as she could to put the fragments back together. It's quite a job. And my examination of the skull bones and the photos of her reconstruction tell me that they were all damaged due to the fire. There was no evidence in the skull bones of any other kind of injury. So in other words, there was no positive evidence of a gunshot wound to the head, for instance.
Can you make, based on your review, any findings that there is more than one bullet that Mr. Farris was potentially shot more than one time?
No, there's no positive evidence of any other gunshot wound.
They're
What do you mean by, that's not the first time I've heard somebody say that. What do you mean by
put
positive
out
evidence?
in the state.
I mean,
Oh,
another bone
theory.
that has what is clearly
There.
a bullet hole in it, for instance. Another area of soft tissue with a bullet recovered from it. You know, no actual
That
evidence
would've been
of
for
damage
two.
by a bullet is what I'm referring to.
Okay. And jumping around again, you're familiar with manner of death and cause of death.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain to the jury what manner and cause of death are?
Cause of death is defined to be the specific process, whether that's a disease or an injury, that sets in motion an unbroken sequence of events that ends with the death of the person, causes the death of the person. So it's pretty much defined by what the words mean. You have to reach a specific conclusion of what it was that ended up causing the death. Manner of death is a construct that we use in medical examiner and forensic pathology practice as a part of the classification of vital statistics. Manner of death is really the circumstantial explanation for how the cause of death occurred. And so manner of death is probably easier to understand if I give you what the choices are. The choices are natural, meaning death caused only by natural disease; accident, which is death caused by an injury that was unforeseen or unintended; suicide, which is the intentional taking of one's own life by injury; homicide, which for forensic pathology purposes, this is vital statistics. This is not criminal law. Homicide, for our purposes, means death at the hands of another. You die from an injury caused by another person. And there's no judgment when we say manner of death or homicide, whether it is or is not a crime. That's a whole separate issue. And then the fifth and final choice for manner of death is undetermined. If you don't have enough evidence to make a conclusion to a reasonable medical certainty that it is this one or that one, or if you have evidence that permits more than one of the choices and you can't really separate them, one's likely and one's unlikely, then you can go with undetermined.
From your review of everything that you looked at in this case, can you make to a medical certainty a finding as what the cause of death was for Gary Farris?
I cannot.
And can you state whether or not that well, I'm assuming you can't state whether or not the projectile caused any death.
Right. In fact, that's the point. I cannot tell you to medical certainty that the projectile found in his chest wall soft tissue was the cause of his death, because unfortunately, given the state of his remains, we cannot trace a bullet pathway from one place to another where that bullet ended up. So we do not have evidence that says to any medical certainty that that bullet caused an injury that caused his death. It could have, but just as equally possible,
We don't know.
didn't. So I can't say that that bullet killed him, and I have no evidence that affirmatively allows me to conclude that another bullet entered his body.
True.
So under the circumstances of the condition of his remains, I don't have enough evidence to say what killed him. So I don't know what his cause of death was.
So as a medical examiner, if you can't determine cause of death, what do you do?
Undetermined.
Well, then you're stuck with admitting the limits of information and what you can do, and you cause of death undetermined.
Okay. So that's a possibility, saying cause of death is undetermined.
Oh, sure. I mean, this is well recognized. Every medical examiner, every forensic pathologist has been through cases like that. They're generally a small percentage of all the deaths that you investigate, but every medical examiner office has a couple or 5% of cases where cause of death, manner of death, or both are undetermined.
How many cases have you had where just you can't determine cause of death?
I haven't kept a record of how many. I mean, it's something I've done on numerous occasions over the years. I'm sure I've had at least one or two in the past year or two. And of course, I'm I'm doing a more limited number of autopsies since I'm not a full-time medical examiner anymore, but I've probably had in 40 years at least a couple of dozen cases, maybe more.
Okay. And moving to the manner, do you have an opinion as to what you could say to a medical surgeon regarding the manner of death?
I do.
What is that?
Actually, in this case, in part because we do not have definitive evidence of the cause of death, and in part because, as far as I understand, we do not have definitive evidence of how Mr. Farris ended up in that fire. We do not have evidence that an accelerant was used to try to burn him up. Frankly, I think the intellectually honest conclusion here is that his manner of death is undetermined as well. I don't really know the circumstances of how and why he died. I don't know the circumstances of how and why his body ended up in that fire. Unfortunately, I mean, it's not real satisfying, but again, I think the intellectually honest answer is I don't know. And that's what an undetermined is for.
And have you had cases in your career where you're saying undetermined cause, undetermined manner?
Sure.
Have you had any recently?
I think I've had at least one case like that in my West Virginia experience fairly recently, yes.
Okay. Was there a case in Washington where you were undetermined manner, undetermined cause, or something vice versa?
Yes, I've had cases like that. I mean, the most famous case I worked on probably in my whole career was the death of Chandra Levy in Washington, D.C., the federal government intern who disappeared and was found skeletonized in the park about 9 months later in the woods. She was an undetermined cause of death.
How about manner of death, though?
Actually, I certified her manner of death as homicide.
Okay. And so why could you certify her death homicide but couldn't do Gary Farris's homicide?
Well, in her case, the circumstances actually were quite compelling that she didn't get there and die on her own. She disappeared unexpectedly, mysteriously. She ended up in a part of the woods in a very large urban park where she wouldn't have been otherwise. It's a huge park where people walk and run and hike, but she's on a slope, a wooded slope where people wouldn't go. She's found with, I think, only one article of clothing, her panties. The totality of those circumstances were such that it was clearly much more likely than not that she got there through the acts of another person. And that permitted me to say, again, from the standpoint of cause and manner of death, not a medical examiner doesn't determine crimes, but that her cause of death was undetermined based on the condition of the limited condition of her skeletonized remains, but the circumstances were compelling that she got there through the acts of another person, and so I certified her manner of death as homicide.
And so you can't say that Gary Farris is a homicide because you can't show how he got to the burn pile, evidence of how he was actually on the burn pile, things like that?
Correct.
Okay. And just one more question for the jury. In your expert opinion, what would the manner and cause of death be for Gary Farris?
My opinion is his cause and manner of death are both undetermined.
No further questions, Judge.
All right. Ms. Megan?
Good morning.
Morning, ma'am.
Good to see you again. All right, I want to talk about your consulting first, and then we'll get into the facts of the case, okay?
Sure.
What is your hourly rate for your testimony?
My hourly rate for all the work in this case is $450 an hour. Considering
That's not
this
bad.
is a full day trip out of town, actually an overnight trip, I have a flat rate
Yeah,
of
I like him.
$4,500 for the trial date.
And that is the outstanding fee is still left, or is that part of the $6,600?
That's an outstanding fee.
You advertise your consulting on your website.
I do.
Do defense attorneys contact you directly to consult on cases?
Attorneys contact me directly. That includes criminal defense attorneys, civil attorneys, on occasions prosecutors.
And you mentioned some trainings and teachings, and you mentioned training and teaching attorneys. That would also include defense attorneys may be in that training as well.
I have, over the years, trained defense attorneys, prosecutors, and civil attorneys.
You mentioned that the majority of your career currently is consulting, and then you do the part-time ME.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? Okay.
Correct.
So from your consulting, how much are you making in salary from your consulting?
We're a corporation. I think my corporation pays me about $250,000 a year now, something like that.
So you've mentioned you've testified how many times as an expert?
Some years ago, it was over 900, and I've stopped counting, basically.
That's criminal and civil?
Criminal and civil, trials, depositions, hearings.
Okay, so not just trials. That's overall. It could be a deposition in a civil lawsuit. You're including that as well?
I am,
Okay, not just jury trials.
correct.
Okay. Do you know how many times of those you've testified out of the criminal matters were for the defense and then for the government?
I can't give you any numbers on that. I can tell you that in 20 years of government service, I probably had about 500 testimonial appearances in criminal matters called by the government. Since I've become a consultant, it's been a handful of cases where I've testified called by the government in criminal matters. And about half of my cases are criminal and half are civil in my consulting work. So kind of gives you an idea of the distribution.
Sure. All right, I want to talk about gunshot wounds generally. Now, you worked in New York and DC, so I imagine you've seen a fair share of gunshot wound victims.
I have, yes.
So the seriousness and the damage a gunshot wound causes is dependent upon many factors.
Yeah,
Is
right?
that fair?
Yes,
It could even go towards
True.
the type of ammunition used.
that's one of the many factors.
We talked about the pedaling of the projectile or mushrooming of the projectile. You said that that causes greater damage.
Yes, the whole purpose of that is such that the bullet continues to impart its energy to the tissues and tends to
More damage.
keep bullets staying inside instead of going through and through.
Mm-hmm.
So the purpose is to transfer energy. You mentioned the energy of the bullet.
Yes, ma'am.
Still,
One of those factors,
23
as
years
far
ago.
as the seriousness
I
or
can't believe
damage of the gunshot wound, is the velocity, how fast it's traveling.
That is indeed one of them.
If it hits something and tumbles or anything like that, could completely change the velocity or speed of the projectile.
If the projectile interacts with an intermediate target before hitting the body, it could change the speed. It could change whether it's flying straight and true. Yes.
Mr. Ray discussed with you the wound path or the entrance wound and exit wound, and dependent upon where the wound enters and where the bullet enters and where the projectile exits, you don't know the amount of damage until you see inside the body, right?
That's correct. Yes.
And in those scenarios, you won't know what organs are hit until you open the body.
Most of the time, yes, that's true.
And you have already testified, you determine the wound path based upon the exit and entrance wound.
The entrance wound, and if there is an exit wound, will generally define the wound path. The internal examination, especially if the bullet doesn't exit, is the other component of determining the wound path.
And without an entrance wound or an exit wound, you cannot tell where that bullet, the path that bullet took.
Pretty much. I mean, I could probably dream up some kind of oddball exception of some bodies where you may see internal damage without being able to determine entrance or exit on the surface. But for the most part, I think, yes, you're right.
Gunshot wounds can vary in size.
Yes, ma'am.
And that would in turn vary in the damage done to the body?
Well, I guess it depends upon what you mean by size. I was thinking of size of the wound on the skin surface. The size of the damage internally can be different in different kinds of gunshot wounds, and that would probably more directly relate to your question about the damage, yes?
I want to talk about, you mentioned energy of the bullet entering the body, and it can transfer energy to the rest of the portions of the body. Is that fair to say?
The bullet transfers energy to the tissues it strikes and some of the tissues at some distance from the actual path of the bullet as well.
I have a couple of more based on your experience and what you've seen out there. Have you ever seen a bullet travel through the body and rest near the surface of the skin without exiting?
I have, yes.
Or even partially exiting, but remaining within the body?
Yes, I've seen that as well.
And when, I don't know if you call them decedents or bodies or patients, I'm not sure the word that you use.
Decedent is a good word.
Okay. When a decedent is sent to you for examination, have you ever experienced where you open the bag that the decedent is in and a bullet has either fallen out of its body or out of its clothing that nobody caught, anything like that?
Yes, I have.
Now, I want to talk about this case specifically. You unfortunately did not have any organs to examine in this case.
Correct.
So you can't actually say if organs were damaged or not.
That's true.
And based
I don't
upon the
think he did.
location of the bullet, I'm going to pull up that
Hey, case
diagram
law.
that Dr. Gooding made.
Hello.
Gooding 11. The location of the projectile was towards the sternum, correct?
Correct.
And right behind the sternum is
His
the
lung.
heart and a portion of a lung.
Yes, right behind the sternum is the pericardium, which is the sac surrounding the heart itself, parts of the great vessels, and sometimes a part of the left lung will overlap that in the front.
Have you seen cases where a bullet causes internal bleeding?
Many times, yes.
And even times that there may not be a lot of external bleeding from gunshot wounds.
That can happen, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the bullet itself may not be the only source of the damage to a body. Is that fair to say? So as far as transferred energy, a rib could become fractured and puncture a lung or something of that nature.
You can have secondary damage such as bone fragments that are injuring a part of the body, yes.
So right behind the bullet in this case are vital organs.
Yes.
And you've already mentioned the word intercostal. I had that written down in my notes, and that means between the ribs.
It does.
So isn't it true that we have intercostal arteries?
The muscle.
We do.
And a lot of
When we eat ribs from an animal, we have the rib bone and they're like this, right? And you have that meat and that muscles between. That's the intercostal. That's what they're talking about.
an entire
also
vascular system
inside.
that's located within those muscles, those intercostal muscles.
Well, there is an intercostal artery with its accompanying intercostal vein, one of which runs along the inside of the upper margin in a little groove of each rib. The soft tissues, you said vascular system, other than those, the soft tissues have very small blood vessels, the capillaries that are microscopic size, but no other major vessels.
You mentioned in your report Well, let me take you back a little bit. In your testimony, you mentioned that medical examiners look at the context in which they receive a body. So you do investigate to an extent as a medical examiner to determine cause and manner of death.
Or I would prefer to say we do investigate.
You
period.
do investigate.
We
Okay.
do.
Okay. And you determine sort of a history of how that body came to you. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, yes.
Now, you mentioned in your report that it's possible Mr. Farris sustained multiple gunshot wounds.
There are many possibilities for
Possible.
which we don't have evidence. So yes, he has one gunshot wound. He could have had others, but we don't have evidence to determine that.
Okay. So were you unaware of the bullet found in the home that he shares with the defendant with his DNA on it?
No, I was aware of that.
Okay. So that, reasonably speaking, would infer he could have been shot multiple times.
Again, could have been. That actually doesn't determine that he was shot multiple times. But
True.
yes, it's a possibility.
Sure. So his soft tissue on a spent bullet, you're saying it's your testimony that that doesn't mean he was shot with that bullet?
Well, his DNA doesn't mean. His DNA could mean that his blood was on that bullet, that he touched that bullet, that that bullet went through a part of his body. There's many possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we don't know if he was shot more than 2 or 3 or 4 times.
That's exactly the point. We don't know. Nobody knows.
How
Well,
many
the shooter
total
knows.
people would you say you've examined on your table before, physically examined?
Well, I'm over 3,000 autopsies, probably at least another 500 external exams. In terms of exams that I have personally done, I mean, that's the best estimate I can give you. I mean, I've seen thousands of other bodies on the autopsy table that I've either been asked to take a look at or consulted or supervised, but my own personal cases were in the 3,000, 3,500 range.
Mr. Ray mentioned this case where a woman was found in the woods, I believe.
She's found in a wooded area in a large urban park.
And you mentioned that that was a unique location that she may have not traveled to herself.
It's not a place where people normally would go, not her or pretty much anybody.
Would you say putting yourself in a burn pile then is a normal place you would go?
Yep.
No, I mean, it's a possibility, not typical, no.
Out of the number of individuals that you have examined, what percentage of those, or just a guess, would have included a gunshot wound?
Well, first of all, I have a rule about not guessing under oath.
Hey, Swan,
Sure.
can you
So
do
I
me a
won't
favor?
guess.
That link of that video, if you wouldn't mind?
I don't actually have statistics
see
to
that.
tell you what percentage of my cases had gunshot wounds. I can tell you I've seen, at the barest minimum, hundreds of gunshot wound deaths that I personally autopsied.
And in those cases, some of them may have been suicides.
Yes?
But out of the ones that weren't, it's fair to say that those other individuals that had gunshot wounds that weren't from a suicide didn't survive.
Anybody who gets to the autopsy table did not survive by definition.
That's exactly right.
First
Okay.
thing they teach you in medical examiner schools, don't do autopsies on live people.
Right. I'm glad you don't. Thank you for that.
Love
So
is
knowing that there was a spent bullet in the basement of the home with Mr. Farris's soft tissue on it, a bullet located within his body, and his body being found on a burn pile that in the reports indicate he did not fall onto, but was placed onto. It's still your position that that is not a homicide.
It's my position that the absence of definitive evidence means that an undetermined manner of death is appropriate. To be frank, yes, you have enough circumstances that you've outlined there that somebody could readily defend a conclusion that the manner of death should be homicide. I think we're missing a few pieces of information that I'd much rather have, But I'm not going to testify to you that calling this a homicide is completely illogical or wrong.
Thank you. That's all I have.
But you would still stand by that, based on the information that you've seen, that it's undetermined.
I would much prefer, you know, if I were offering an opinion, if I am offering an opinion, that's my opinion. Undetermined is better.
All right. And just a couple brief follow-up ones. And I just let's just assume that Dr. Gooding's opinion that it is a front to back shot and it is a sternal rib end. Tell me where, to the best of your knowledge, where you think on the left side of the body that projectile is on those ribs. And if you look at the photo there, and just kind of guide me.
Right around, you've got the cursor, which is showing as a hand.
Yes.
And leave it right there. You now have that cursor overlying inside the bracket that Dr. Gooding put there, and those sternal ends of those ribs are the front, slightly to the left part of the body. And that is the general area where the tissue fragment with the bullet was found, or I'm sorry, represents. And so where you've got the hand cursor is for broad approximation about where that bullet was.
So if you're shot straight on and the bullet lodges in between two ribs right there, what kind of trauma are you expecting to see?
I'm expecting to see an entrance wound in the skin surface. I'm expecting to see some damage to the underlying tissues, including those muscles. And I'm expecting to see some bleeding associated with that. And that's probably it. There could be some bruising on the underlying lung, meaning that the impact of the bullet can cause bruising in deeper tissue where the bullet didn't hit. But that's about it.
It wouldn't cause death, in your opinion.
If
Thank you so
asked
much.
me to assume it was indeed, as Dr. Gooding opined, the front to back shot that
Correct.
ended up in that chest wall in the front, then yes, much more likely than not, it would not cause death. In fact, then in cross-examination, the issue of intercostal arteries was brought up. The intercostal arteries are fairly small, and they arise from your aorta in the back, near the backbone area, and then follow each rib around. Intercostal artery bleeding from the part of the artery in the front is likely to be quite limited. On rare occasions, and I've seen this maybe once or twice in 40 years, an intercostal artery in the back where it's bigger can actually cause fatal bleeding, but that's extremely rare. So I would expect localized hemorrhage in the front, but not fatal bleeding and not fatal injury.
No further questions, Judge.
Nothing else, Judge.
All right, sir. Thank you. You can step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Ray, Mr. Weaver, anything else?
That's all, Your Honor. The defense will rest.
Any rebuttal from the state?
No rebuttal, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Woohoo!
evidence is now closed.
Yahoo!
I'm going to take this time to remind you once again, we are at a critical stage in the proceedings. The evidence is closed. You're not to look up anything about the case, talk to anyone about the case, and I'm going to give you some more instructions when I dismiss you in just a couple of minutes. Once again, we're revising the schedule. I had promised the attorneys that I would give them a full day to prepare their closing arguments, which I anticipate is going to take about 2 hours for each side. They're going to give you most of them are going to do a PowerPoint presentation of some sort, and to get their slides together for that. They have agreed, based upon our discussions after I dismissed you yesterday, that if we broke by about 10:30 this morning, which we are going to do, that they could take the rest of today to prepare their closing statements, and that we would be able to do closing statements tomorrow. So everything I told you yesterday has been updated, and you can't go off to work or whatever you want to do tomorrow. We're going to do closing statements and jury charge, and then y'all begin deliberations. Before we do that, I'm going to take a minute of personal privilege. The attorneys in this case have done a remarkable job presenting this case to you in a timely fashion. This case could easily have gone on for another week or two.
Yep.
And each time I announced my anticipated timeline, they worked to parse it down further, maybe based upon y'all's reaction to my proposed timeline. There easily could have been several more days of crime lab testimony, which they agreed to stipulate to the reports, to have one witness testify to things that witness didn't necessarily test, but knew enough about to present the information to you. They stipulated to the admission of a lot of the evidence in the reports. They didn't make unnecessary objections. And although we still sit you out numerous times, it could have been a lot more. Each of these attorneys has tried a jury trial in front of me or more. They've handled many more cases in front of me and appeared in front of me dozens of times, and each of them are outstanding lawyers. The Friday first week of trial, I don't know if you knew what we were doing after we broke, but we went next door to Judge Baker's courtroom because my courtroom is a disaster, and we swore in a new lawyer, and they're going to take photographs, and so we didn't want all this stuff in front of them. And so I asked each of the attorneys to come next door and participate in the ceremony with me, and as part of that ceremony, I had them each read a section of what's called the Lawyer's Creed, which is a set of aspirational guiding principles that lawyers should follow as members of the bar and of our profession, and they should treat opposing counsel with respect and courtesy and to act professionally. I want to commend each of you, Mr. Bogus, Ms. Frankish, Mr. Ray, Mr. Weaver, for embodying the words and spirit of those aspirational goals. The stakes in this case could not be higher. However, they did not let that pressure get to them. They've also had to try this case knowing that thousands of people are watching this case online and scrutinizing every minute of it and what each of them say and what each of them do. They didn't ask for this trial to be broadcast or for cameras to be in the courtroom. And none of us are used to being on TV and now have been made aware of our individual quirks, idiosyncrasies, and the number of times that we say or in a given day. They have done their best to ignore the media and not to play to the camera, but to present the case to you. They've treated each other and the witnesses in the court professionally and with respect. I appreciate it. I acknowledge it. I want to specifically do that in front of you, the jury. Thank you to each of you. I'm also doing this today because things might get a little heated tomorrow. Closing argument, to be expected, can be emotional, and I anticipate that they will continue to do their job to the best of their ability. All right. So again, thank y'all for that. Let's talk about the rest of the week. All right. We're going to do closing and charge tomorrow morning. As I said, I anticipate it's going to be lengthy. The case I tried right before I started with you, I had 3 defendants and the state, and each of them took an hour in that case. Because it's a murder case, I'm going to give each side 2 hours. But using that as my guide, by the time we got started, by the time we took breaks throughout each of their closing statements, and by the time I gave the charge to the jury, it was 2:30. And the jury had not eaten lunch. So we're not going to do that again. What I'm going to attempt to do tomorrow is for us to begin, the state gets the opportunity to open and conclude closing arguments. So the state will begin. They may go 30 to 45 minutes to start with. Then I'll let Mr. Ray or Mr. Weaver go for about an hour. They may want to split up their closings. I'm going to get the lawyers. Sometimes judges get caught up and only let one lawyer talk. I'm going to let whoever wants to talk on their side talk as much as they want, or not as much as they want, but I'm going to limit it to about 2 hours. So at an appropriate time in the middle of defense's closing, we will break for 15 minutes, give y'all an opportunity to stretch your legs.
Amen, Ronnie.
We'll then conclude closing statements for the defense. At that point, I'm going to attempt to do a 30-minute lunch break. We're going to order pizza in, give you all a chance to take a short break, eat something. Then the state's going to conclude closing arguments. If we need another break after their conclusion before I give you the instructions that I'm going to give you, which is going to be another 40 minutes, we'll take another break then if we need to. At that point, y'all will have the case. Now, we have to gather all the evidence and present it to you. We're going to try to do some of that today and get it somewhat organized and get y'all listed the exhibits and that kind of stuff for tomorrow. So that's something else the state and the defense are going to work on. When y'all begin deliberations, my general rule is I let the jury determine how long you're going to be here and as late as you want to stay and when you want to come back the next day. I
Wow.
will offer suggestions to you and try to guide you somewhat, but for the most part, I let the jury make that determination. I think I have told y'all that we have been here till 2:30 in the morning before. That was the jury's call. If y'all want to stay tomorrow night, y'all are welcome to stay. If y'all stay past 6:30, 7 o'clock, we'll order some food in for you. If y'all decide after hearing closing statements that y'all just need a break for the day, that's fine too. We will be here the rest of the week and into next week if y'all need it. We will try to break a little. I'm going to suggest on Thursday, if y'all are deliberating most of the day Thursday, that we try to get out of here a little bit early on Thursday because it's Halloween and traffic will be terrible and everyone has kids and other activities planned for the day. So again, we have Friday and we have into next week, which is what I originally told y'all thought the case would do. Other things, just to give you an idea, when we start deliberations, the bailiffs are going to take your devices away from you and they will be put in a box and they'll be left in the
They couldn't
hallway
do that to me.
during
Control.
your deliberations while you're here in the jury room. I will give you an opportunity before y'all start deliberations to call home and say, we're starting deliberations. And you won't hear from me again until A, we have a verdict, or B, we decide to break for the evening. And then I'll be on the way home. And then that will be the case throughout the remainder of the deliberations as long as that takes. That way there's no mischief going on with your devices. There'll be a separate instructions for the alternates. Y'all may believe that you know who the alternates are, but that information that you may have gotten off the clerk's website may or may not be accurate. I will talk to the alternates tomorrow and give them a separate set of instructions.
Wow.
Any questions from y'all as to what your schedule is for the rest of the week? All right, y'all be here at 8:45 in the morning. We'll start closings as
How do you
close
like
to
the
9
iron
o'clock
on
as we
patches
can. There
on
may
the
be some
elbows
things
of
we
the
need to get
sleeve that's coming off?
set up and make sure the equipment's working. But we'll try to get started as close to 9 as we can. And then I anticipate, like I said, it will be most of the day. We'll stand up and stretch as needed. We'll take breaks as needed. And hopefully y'all will have the case by early afternoon. All right. With that, y'all can be excused.
And she never stands. And why is this attorney not standing? He should be standing. What's up with that? Now you stand after they left the room. I don't get it. Okay, guys. Personally, the way I feel now that we've heard all the evidence, do I believe she knows something about it? Yes. Do I believe that she may or most likely was a part of it? Yes. Could I find her guilty of a lesser? Yes. But I don't think I can find her guilty. What's her charges, by the way? Can anybody throw that in there? including malice murder or felony murder, that is where I may not be able to find guilt. By the way, you guys, I've got some shocking news. Are y'all ready? I'm going to share something. We're going to pause. I'm going to share this tab. Do you see that? We hit 100,000 views this week. Oh, don't pay attention to the monetary thing. That's not bad for beginning monetary. But we hit 100,000 views. Oh my gosh, y'all. That is so freaking exciting. We did it. We did it. We did it. We've done 101,000 views in a matter of months. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So we're going to have a celebration. We'll do that. We'll probably do that Halloween night. We'll celebrate it Halloween night. Okay, guys, at this point, I think we're going to call this one a done for the day. Let me see what else is going on in the YouTube world. I can't believe we finally hit 100,000 views. Let's go. Here. I love Judge Boyd. She's freaking awesome. Are they in a trial? Okay, let's do this.
Your client needs to come up and counsel you on that side.
I love her. Love her. Oh,
I cannot believe I was locked out of Odyssey again. All right. So on this case, where are we on discovery?
So there is a discovery issue, Judge. I can't get a couple of videos to work. I've spoken with the state and
What videos?
well, I don't know what they are. They look like in-car camera videos and one body cam. But I've spoken with the state about it and I emailed the specific videos that don't work.
All right, have you talked to her about the specific videos that don't work?
Number 2, 3, and 4, Judge.
All right. So what are we doing to make sure he gets his videos?
Double check today and make sure he's going to email me the specific ones as well. I'm just going to double check and make sure, see what's going on with that. And if they are not, working, we'll re-upload and we'll try to figure that out.
Okay. So Norma, have this come back on November 19th. Will you have it by then?
I believe so.
All right, so November 19th.
Judge, I will be out.
Where will you be?
I think that's the week before Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm going to be out that entire week.
The entire week before Thanksgiving?
Well, Thanksgiving's on,
The 28th?
let's see. Thanksgiving's on the 22nd or the 29th?
No, the 28th.
28th? Okay, never mind. Sorry.
All
That's
right.
fine.
All right, so we're going to be back on for discovery on November 19th. And why were you late?
The people in the front. I got here a little early, but I didn't know there was gonna be that many people at the front door. I'm sorry.
All right, no problem. So you need to make sure you're on time, okay? Thank you for dressing appropriately for court. Once you have the reset form signed, you can be excused.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You have a good day.
You too.
hey, you guys, I have a question. Anybody personally know pickle nits?
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I've got YouTube stuff I'm doing behind scenes. Zoomy. Not much happening there today. Let's find out. Let me see if I can find
All right, Laura Martinez. Who's here on Laura Martinez?
And how would you describe Exhibit 59?
I'm looking. I'm going.
Suitcase death of her boyfriend, we do know that she should have taken door number 1. 3 weeks ago, prosecutors offered her 15 years in prison in exchange for a guilty plea. And if you do the math, she's been locked up for 4.5 years. So that means a little over 10 years is left with some shaved off good time, you know. She'd be out for a decade. But Boone said no to the deal, and now she's facing a minimum of 22.5 years and a maximum of life. So why didn't she take the deal? Was she that convinced that she'd go free? I'm joined now by Sarah Boone's attorney, James Owens. Mr. Owens, it's great to have you back on the show. Thanks so much for being with me. What was your client's reaction when she heard the verdict, guilty, read in court?
Yeah, it was this past Friday evening, and I would say shock. We were not, she nor I were anticipating guilty as charged. You know, we considered that the jury might convict her of a lesser charge, or of the first lesser was manslaughter and the second lesser was culpable negligence. So yeah, she was in shock that they found her guilty as charged, which was the second-degree murder.
I'm struggling to figure that one out because I had made a bet that the jury would come back under 2 hours, and they did. I found her wholly dislikable all through the entire process, from the moment she was arrested to the moment she was convicted. I can't imagine I'm alone. Everyone I've spoken to who's been following the case, albeit not in the courtroom, has said the same thing. They'll throw the book at her. Why did your client and why did you feel that that wasn't going to happen?
Well, she actually did pretty good on the stand if you watch her testimony. As far as Sarah goes, she actually did pretty good, I felt like. But, you know, ultimately, as you mentioned earlier, the decision as to whether or not to accept a plea offer or to take the case to trial is ultimately only the client's decision. You know, lawyer can tell her the pros and cons and the strengths and weaknesses of her position versus the state's position.
Sure. Did you recommend to her to take the deal and she went against your recommendation? Because knowing how she's been with the last, 8 trial attorneys who, she spent before you, I would imagine that would be a scenario, I believe.
Well, we talked about it in depth, and I try not to give my opinion initially. I want them to try to make the decision on their own. And then if they ask me for my opinion, then I give it to them based on
Did she?
Yes.
What'd you say?
Well, that was something that I suggested she strongly consider, was that plea. I think with 15 years, you do 80% of that sentence here in Florida, plus she'd done already 4.5 years. So she would have had, I think, about 8 years to do. So yeah, that
So
was
she
a
went
real
against your
incentive.
advice. I mean, I sit here with a smile only because it's like I've heard this story so many times before, and I think you knew as well coming in as number 9 that she wouldn't take your advice. Have you had a chance to talk with her since the conviction, and is she rethinking her decision to ignore everybody who's smarter at this game than she is?
No, we haven't talked about that. You know, she's got a sentencing coming up, December the 2nd, Monday, December the 2nd at 1:30. So we're going to deal with preparing her for that. She's going to speak at that. And then there's a pre-sentence investigation that the judge ordered. So we'll work on that. And the judge
What
has
do you
got
think she's going to get? What do you think the
make
judge
a
will
decision.
sentence her to?
Well, you know, there's a range, and I think the state attorney had said the low end was 22 years, and of course, life is the top of the range, and the judge is going to have to make a decision. You know, as you know, there was testimony that she suffered from the battered spouse syndrome by our expert, and also the state attorney's expert testified. Both of them agreed that she suffered. So there is some mitigating factors, although the jury did not find that she was justified in the use of force that she used as a result of the battered spouse syndrome. I think the judge can consider the fact that ultimately, you know, it was a dysfunctional, toxic relationship in which both of them probably abused each other.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe.
Yeah, that was interesting. What did you think about the way she was interviewing? I'm like, I was pretty I was pretty shocked at her interview. I thought it was kind of rude and short, and I would have never interviewed with her again. That was absolutely obnoxious. I am giving a video credit is what I'm doing right now in my live because we will be watching. We're going to watch a video that was produced by publicly buzzed, excuse me. And we're going to share that because I really want to hear about the prison that Boone is going to be going to. And I know I did it that way. So let's
Monday night live stream happening here. Thought I'd come through for another.
All right. Anybody in my lives know this chatter? I want to make sure that we do not get in trouble for sharing this. So before I continue, I want to make sure that we're going to be fine. So anybody know him at all? Does anybody think this is going to be an issue? Please let me know now. Not sure what a pre-sentencing investigation is, case one. A pre-sentence, why am I looking at everything sideways? It should be like this. Thank you. A pre-sentencing investigation is where Sarah Boone will have an interview. Also, the victims' families will be interviewed. They will do any kind of psychological testing. They will look at her history, and that is where they decide her risk, and the state will give a recommended they'll give a recommended sentencing to the judge. The judge will read all of that, and then they will give that to the judge, and he will use it to help him decide her sentencing. I have given him credit. I will give him credit in the banner. So we'll do that. Let me create it. That's not what I'm trying to do. What the heck is that? Create a banner. I'm putting video courtesy of, but I don't know. V, and let me get down here. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Gee gads. That is what I wanted. Okay, so we're going to do this. We're going to get this live a-rolling. I really want to hear his input. I have a suspicion it's going to be a good one. So let's listen in.
Another Sarah Boone Murder Church episode. I am not done with her just quite yet. I can't get enough. There's still a little bit more. We're going to be looking at a sentencing, at least from what I'm told, December 2nd, which is interesting. And I was kind of interested in where would Sarah Boone be going potentially? And I think I found out. It looks like she could be going to Lowell Correctional Institute. And this place has a really, really dark history, guys. We're going to go over that here tonight. Everybody in here coming through right now, I really appreciate it. If you could go to X, if you're on there, and share out the tweet that I just made about this stream, I'd really appreciate it. That does help me out greatly. Hit the like, that does as well. I see everybody coming through here. Location where she will most likely end up. Florida Women's Reception Center. The Florida Women's Reception Center is a unique facility in that it has multiple missions: reception, inpatient mental health, short sentence institution, and general population. From my understanding, they'll basically be figuring out what to do and where to put Sarah Boone. And I've read even people will stay. I don't know how long she would stay here, but I have read that people can be kind of in this limbo for 4 to 6 weeks before they even reach the prison. I don't know. I'd like to talk to somebody that has a little bit more information on that. But even in here, we could have Sarah Boone doing some yoga, a little bit of wellness, education. We know that she is a great mother. Okay, she's going to do absolutely fantastic, and they're going to be able to figure out. But she excels at everything. We do know that. But yeah, this spot right here, I was just doing a little bit of Googling for the area in general.
Funny.
I'm gonna pull it up on the old map here and get a look-ski as well. As you can see, it's a compound where Sarah Boone would be housed. But there is a lot of fucked up stories circulating around this particular facility, which is crazy. Which, I mean, prisons aren't good, but some of the stuff that we're reading here is fucked up. So prepare for that real quick. I do want to jump in here and I didn't get to do this live.
Y'all, does he cuss like this all the time? Y'all. Am I going to get in trouble here? Y'all, really? Is this going to be a problem for me? Y'all, help a girl out.
Welcome in, everybody.
Madam Clerk, if you could please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the Ninth Judicial Circuit in Orange County, Florida, case number 2020 CF 2603, the state of Florida versus Sarah Boone.
Oh, God, I got to get that.
We, the jury,
There
find
we
the
go.
defendant guilty of murder in the second degree
No.
as charged in the information. Still say we all dated at Orlando, Orange.
We don't.
Number of females that have died. Whistleblower
about the jury's work.
History.
There we go.
In this prison. Retaliation against inmates. Inmates who reported abuse were often subjected to retaliation, including threats, physical violence, or being placed in solitary confinement. Whistleblower accounts from former employees and inmate testimonies suggest a pervasive culture of intimidation, making it dangerous for victims to come forward. Medical neglect. Reports of inadequate medical care are widespread. Inmates have spoken out about being denied access to necessary treatments, medications, and proper mental health care. These are instances where women have died from treatable conditions due to lack of attention or delays in care. I've read a few stories of that. Poor living conditions. Inmates at this facility have described living in conditions with cells often infested with mold, bugs, and rodents. Basic needs such as access to hygiene products, proper clothing, and sanitary living spaces have been insufficient, exacerbating the harshness of life inside the prison. So one story that I read earlier is basically like if you're in a situation with like the security guards and you're being sexually abused, I guess they're coercing these women to fit for better treatment. They'll get
Ron, y'all, I don't know if I can show this. All right, I'll get demonetized.
or won't let you do these things. So it's a really, really weird situation going on. There's numerous instances that we are going to go over here. Investigations and reforms. Over the years, various groups have tried to bring attention to the abuse at Lowell. The DOJ's 2020 investigation with a major turning point leading to increased scrutiny and calls for reform. Despite these investigations, change has been slow. Human rights groups and former inmates continue to call for accountability and reform to protect women incarcerated here. And I did find one thing. I found a few things digging today. I found that there is a website that is actually showing a number of females that have died at this location since 2015. It doesn't go back further than that. Kind of got interested to look at one of these today, and this very last one that's located on here that died 10/23/23, so a year ago. And all of these say natural. There's only 2 in here that have investigations that are open. They all say closed otherwise. I did find her story, which is really crazy. This person, I think I've actually got it up over here. I believe.
Ooh.
Just a sidetrack just for a second. This, what was her name? Bianca Evans. So Bianca Evans, here we go. This is from 2017. Here we go. This is when they got in trouble in 2017. So didn't last long in this facility, and they're a young person. Just weeks after she was arrested for allegedly stealing an older woman's car from a residence, Bianca Evans returned to the same woman's home Thursday, this time armed with a broomstick. So this individual stole a car from this old lady, gets arrested, gets out on bond, and then she goes right back to the residence and waits on the lady to get home from buying groceries, beats the shit out of her with a broomstick, and steals her car again. And then, of course, gets busted. And this time she's in hot shit and ended up in this facility where Sarah Boone is going. And again, did not make it for very long. She died 1 year ago.
Okay, so I got to find this page. I'm looking for it, guys. I'm already on it. I am so already on it. Yeah, he's I appreciate him. But that's a lot of bad language. Okay, let's share this page and let's just talk about it ourselves. Appreciate you, dude. I really, really do, but a lot of bad language. So in 2015, all right, they have one case for March 24th of 2024 that's pending. They say all natural causes. So how is that a natural cause? Okay, is this what I'm looking at? Or are you just gonna send it to me in Discord, love, if it's different? I got you up in Discord, Ronnie. Wow. Lot of. Okay. Yes, we will. Help me find that report. No, you're good, K Swan. But it would be easier for. I would like to go through it myself. So if you have and you can find the report. Oh, you're wonderful. Thank you, Ronnie. I got it up. Okay, this is interesting. Let me share this. I'm hopping it up. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about this. This is the prison that supposedly Sarah Boone's going to go to. So if you look at the manner of deaths between 2017 and 2023, the overwhelming majority are natural. Okay, 2,363. That's a lot of death in a prison. 302 are accidental. Accidental. Okay, y'all. I'm having a problem believing that all of that is accidental. Really. Then we have homicide, which is 112. Ending of one's life is 136, and 110 is pending. Whoa. Look at these numbers. Inmate population. And this is, of course, I would say the whole state of Florida, but that's still awfully high. Okay, so 22 to 23, 85,174. Total of deaths is 415. Natural, questionable. Oh, also includes cases listed as undetermined by medical examiner. So that to me would say, I'd say 25% of those would be undetermined, maybe less. Accidental 16, unaliving, homicidal 4, ending one's life is 7, and 82 pending. Wow, this is a huge number. That's 23 to 24, excuse me. 22 to 23, we have 310 natural. Wow, look at 2021, 2020 and 20 through 2021. 480 natural with undetermined. The highest that in the last 7 years, 539 in Florida. Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, they do have this. Okay. So here we're going to the Lowell, and this is where Sir Boone's going. These are the investigations. Look at all these naturals. That also means undetermined. It looks like a pretty violent place. Accessory to the fact. Let's look at this institution. Why don't we? Oops, didn't mean to do that. Let's look at this place. Adult or youthful. Oh, they have both there. No, they do not. The unintentional or is going to be categorized within the natural. So the academic programs of this facility have an adult basic education, a general education development for your GED. It is a Southern Baptist theological. Oh, so they're going to turn them into pastors. Good. Special Education Services, Title I Services, Volunteer Literacy Program. Vocational program, Applied Information Technology. They have a cosmetology program, culinary arts, electricianal. That's always a good one. Equine care therapy, heavy equipment operating, manufacturing, Polk State College, WOOF, Advanced Dog Training Handler. Which one of these do we think? Oh my gosh, it should have been on the screen. Let me get it up there. I didn't realize it popped down. My apologies. Here we go. So which one of these do we believe that Miss Boone is going to become a part of? Which one of these programs do you think she's going to do? I'm going to go for cosmetology. Okay, substance abuse programs. They have a residential therapeutic community, intensive outpatient services and prevention. Chaplaincy. They actually have a chapel library, faith and character. That's what she was a part of in the other, in the jail she's in now. And she didn't do well. Religious education and worship services. Betterment programs. AA, Alternative Violence Program, or AVP. Art therapy, boot camp, compass. Oh, I'd love to see her go through boot camp, wouldn't you? Everybody wants the dog one, and she's got to be an impeccable inmate for that. Dance to be free. Oh, I'd love to see that one. Gavel Club. Ooh, does that mean they get to sit here and watch us? That's interesting. Inmate wellness. Is that what? Lactation program? Did I read that right? That must be new mama program. Law Liberty program. Okay, she's going to be in the law programs. You know that, right? Library program, mindful based stress reduction, parenting, peer to peer dormitory, thinking for a change, women help women of offering obedience and fellowship dog training program. Okay. And of course, the prize assignment, gourmet manufacturing. So this is everything they offer at her particular location. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Well, she's not in there yet. Visiting information. No, we want to find a facility. I accidentally clicked on the wrong thing. Let me get this back up and going. There we go. Let me get it back up. My apologies. I clicked the wrong button. They do offer a lot. I was surprised to see that. Visiting hours are from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Hey, let's get on her list and go visit her. Right now, their capacity is 968. They have 14 to 18 and 19 to 24 in the adult youth area. They do have an annex. Okay, so we want to find the annex. Let's go back to here. There's the annex. What? Come here. What you got? You got your toy. Do you got your toy? Come here. Come here. Come here. You got a toy. Arr, 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 arr. Arr. My dog is not a huge dog toy dog. So, yeah. Okay, this is the adult. Okay, the annex is where she's going to be held. It's got right now 1,419. Of course, here are the same information. Oh my gosh, Kristen, welcome. Enjoy the trip, beloved. So this is where she's going. Wow. That is okay. Let me get back to this one. I want to see what they have to say. So we want the annex. Cool. Where is what he was reading? Where is the That's what I need. I didn't want, y'all don't need to see my camping wish list. Sorry, guys. Well, I guess I could let you see the wish list. I'm Googling it. I'm getting it. All right. I think I got it. Add to stage. Here we go, guys. We got it. Gosh, I love it when things work out well. I love it. I love it. I love it. Share this tab. Fit to page. Oh, no. We want full width. Okay, guys. Here we go. Let's see the investigation. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, the U.S. Attorney General's Office for the Middle District of Florida, provides notice of pursuant a right of civil law based on total conditions, practices, and incident discovered. One, the conditions at Lowell Correctional Institute or Lowell violate 8th Amendment United States Constitution due to intimate abuse of prisoners by facility staff. Wow. I need to take that banner down. OMG. Oh, that's wonderful, Kristen. And 2, these violations are pursuant to the pattern of practices of resistance to full enjoyment of rights protected by the amendment. Fails to keep prisoners at Lowell safe from intimate abuse by staff, documented and has been aware of the pattern or practices of staff intimate abuse of prisoners since 2006, despite being on notice for several notice of this intimate abuse. The FDOC and Lowell failed to take timely action to remedy this. OMG. Document in this notice that Lowell prisoners have suffered from harmful intimate abuse and are substantial risk of serious harm. Between 2017 and the present, Lowell's sergeants, correction officers, and other staff have committed notorious acts of intimate abuse, including the R word against prisoners. For example, July of 2020, Sargent was arrested and charged with misconduct after he admitted engaging in oral intimacy with a prisoner in the maintenance room of prisoners' dormitory as recently as 2020. The same sergeant had been accused in 2017 of the same type of abuse with a different prisoner, causing lesions on prisoners' throat and from okay. Wow, y'all. Look at oh my gosh. So this is going to be a very difficult place for her. Maybe, maybe not. I think I'm going to put this down and I'm just going to share with y'all a little bit about what I know. OMG, guys, this is intense for her. She's going into a huge world of unknown. I do know that that investigation was closed and actions were taken, but this is going to be a wake-up call for her. She's going to go in there. She will be put on a self-unaliving watch in there. She will be, according to her assessments, she will be in an intake for a while, or they may even put her in a solitary confinement because of the popularity of her trial. And then over time, they will put her in general pop. That can be anywhere from a few days to a few weeks to a few months. Part of it also is going to be is her attitude is going to have to be different. I think she'll go in there and be scared out of her ever loving mind, and very well should be. And then over time, she'll become comfortable. And I think it's with that over time being comfortable that her true personality will come out. Do I believe there's going to be conflicts? Do I believe she's going to have situations? Yeah, betcha. Someone with her personality is not going to get out of there unscathed. I don't know. Okay, one thing, how do I put this? Depending on the prison, they don't get to watch that kind of stuff. They really don't want them watching trials. They may see a news station that may say guilty or give little tidbits in their news brief, but for them to sit and watch a court TV documentary or for them to sit there and be able to watch it on a YouTube channel will depend on the particulars of each prison. The inmate guards will not put up with, oh, hell no. They will not put up with Sarah Boone in any way, shape, or form. Jail and prison are vastly different, y'all. I see you. Okay, hold on. So anyway, I'm sorry, I was asking my son to do something. But see, that's what I was going to get to. Family and friends and not so friends will definitely put information in. Now, one of the things that Sarah Boone's going to have an issue with are the separations of cultures. And I'm not going to say the G word, but I put it as this separation of cultures. She will be expected to stay within her race and culture. And she will have a risk because of the race and culture of her victim of having some people not happy and more than willing to show how unhappy they are. So that is something that they will look at when they bring her into the system. But she is going to have to find her wings, and she is going to have to find a way to live within all that. And will there most likely be attempts? Yeah. She's used to being large and in charge. And when you go into a facility of 1,400 women, yeah, she is going to be the high man on the totem pole, not the low man, the high man on the totem pole. And her games that she was playing with commissary and trying to find her, what do they call it? It just left my brain. Everybody has some kind of way of making money, not literal money, but, earning their living in prison. And a scheme, I'll use that word, her scheme in prison. She'll find it. I think she's already kind of started that in jail. She's got to find a way. I don't know if the money that they raise for her will pay for her commissary and all of that. I don't know, since she's been found guilty. I don't know if those finances would be permitted. I don't know if her ex-husband is going to put money on her books like he was before. We don't know. I don't think he will now. Um, what is the breaking news? Steve Bannon, what? Steve Bannon released from prison after serving contempt of Congress sentence. Oh, that's right. I'll talk about him in a minute. But back to Sarah Boone. In a way, she might get away with some of her nonsense, but she's going to have to build the relationships. It's going to be very hard. Depending on the prison inmate status, they sometimes have access to tablets, and everyone has a side. Thank you. Side hustle is the word I was looking for. Her hustle. That's right. But it also, the thing about the tablets and stuff, they still sometimes have limiting internet access. I don't know how much access this particular prison has. I do know some of them here in Texas. You cannot access things like court TV because they're feeling on some of the feelings on that, not all of them, is that it can set up possibilities for cultural or groups of people to be able to gain inside information when use it against that person when they arrive in the prison. So I do know some things may be limited. It may not be in her situation. I don't know. Time will tell on that. But you bet they know she's coming, and you know that they already are going to have fun. And if any of the culture that George was from has any connection with him, if there's anybody inside that has a connection with him, she will go to another facility. They will not keep her in a facility that puts her at high risk. So, yeah, somebody asked me that the other day, and I'm like, if the facility knows that there is a connection between the victim and somebody in this facility, if they cannot keep them in totally separate units and keep them totally separate, then they probably will not keep her there long. Alex Murdaugh was sending shirtless pics to someone. Yeah. Can't get that out of my head, y'all. I still have that burnt into my brain. If you hadn't said it, I may not have remembered it, but dang, that was nasty. But yeah, they can do emails and things like that, but it is monitored. I think for Sarah, the biggest thing for her is the control and how she was able to easily persuade other inmates to allow her to store her stuff in their areas. Ain't going to happen here. She's going to have to toe the line. She's going to have to follow the bunk rules, especially. I don't know if this is going to be a bunk facility where she's going to be in a room with 10, 20 other women, or if this is a 2-person cell facility all the way around. I think for her, being in a 2-person cell or individual cell is worse. She prefers larger groups of women. She does not like to be alone. Thank you, Kristen. You're phenomenal. You know that, Kristen? We've missed you. So I don't know. Let me pull something. Let me try something. I'm looking up images. Oh, y'all, we got to share this. I'll share this page. Y'all, we're going to show this. Can I embiggen this? Nope. I don't want to do that. Go back to photos. I want to embiggen. There we go. Let me move this so I can see. And then I want to get this up. Add to stage. I hate this. It always puts me over there. So this is the inside of one of the units. See how they have a drawer under the bunk? It's the staff there that's bad as well. Yeah. See how they have that drawer under this bunk? Every bunk has a drawer. So what does that mean? She's in there, she's screwed because she can't handle it. Here's the outside grounds. Oh. They have a door up top with no stairs. Are you kidding me? What? I'm going to go here for a second. Oh, I looked at their stock photos and it's a joke. Okay. Let's keep looking. So this is the overall. It looks like it. It's an older prison. Now you can see some that come off in interesting. So there's an annex and there's a main. Oh, that's a good. Let's see. We'll keep going. There we go. So if she gets put into any of these are the 2-person or 1-person cells, depending on their setup. Okay. So it's all going to depend on where they put her. I'm looking for some more photos. Inmate A, correctional, nope. So anyway, Sarah Boone's going to have a rude awakening. This is going to be a tougher year than what she would have imagined. By far, y'all. Sarah Boone is going to have an issue. Shouldn't do the crime if you can't do the time. All right, guys. What we're going to do is I want to share this real quick, and then we're going to end for the day. I would like to have some quiet time, and I have college work to do, and this is rare that we don't actually have a trial that we can sit and watch at this moment. We will be live on Thursday for closing arguments. But right now we have announced some people may be interested in this, some may not. Which one is this? MSN? Why is it not showing up? Well, we'll do it this way. I can skin the cat 2 different ways. Okay, MSN. The Washington Post. Last time Steve Bannon was free man, Joe Biden was a presumptive Democratic nominee for president. Bannon, at the right-wing podcast host and former Trump campaign official, was released. So he has done his time. He was sentenced to 4 months in prison. Oh, woohoo. You did whopping 4 months. I am so happy for you. The first 3 charges were 1, malice murder, 2, felony murder with 3 felony murders. I don't think she's going to get out anytime soon. I didn't know if they maybe had accessory or manslaughter on there, but they don't. I don't know how this is going to go for her, like I felt for Boone. I felt Boone was a dead ringer. Sorry. Bad pun, but true words. This one, I think there's going to be a hung jury. I see a hung jury before I see guilty. That's my humble opinion. I see hung jury before I see guilty, but I could be wrong. Oh, sorry. I got a email from school. Okay, guys, y'all have been awesome. It's a short day. I'm going to, wow, it's only 10:30 in the morning. Wow. Maybe I can get some cleaning done here in the shop. I got to get some cleaning done here. So we're going to hang it up for today. If anything should happen, I'll hop back on. That's no problem. I am trying to get ready for our Halloween live. Anybody have any ideas? Throw them at me. Mods, I need some Halloween help. So we'll see what we can do. Ronnie, Kristen, Case One, Zach, hello, Britt. Well, hello, Lynn. I'm sorry I didn't see you till now. Well, hello. Thank you so much for joining us. I greatly appreciate it. You are so welcome to be here. Watching from Canada while I work. Well, normally we're live from 8 in the morning Central U.S. time till end of day, 5, 6. But today we don't have much. Tomorrow is nothing. But Thursday we will be back, and we're going to be live for Thursday's closing arguments and jury watch, and also our Halloween. So we're going to do Halloween as well through in the evening, through the day and into the evening. So please, Lynn, like, comment. You've commented, so like and subscribe. That would be phenomenal. Adair, thank you so much for joining us. Mary Kay, y'all keep her in your prayers. She's going through cancer, and she is going to get some tests and answers. But Adair, thank you, Sankey. Thank you. Toxic Orchid, you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Emily and Melissa, thank you so much for joining. So we will see you, unless something happens. We'll see you Thursday morning. I got a day and a half off. Oh, I won't know what to do with myself. Yeah, I'm going out of town tomorrow. So with that, be blessed. Have a great day. Remember, smile at somebody who's not smiling back. They may be having a bad day and might need a little loving. So thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. I hope you have an awesome day. Till next time, take care.